jumping in to the middle of the ocean wearing jeans, sneakers, and a backpack filled with textbooks. Not so smart, right? When it all, see, my three youngest boys did the sport of rowing, like on a crew, CREW. And one of the things that they had to do before they were cleared to row was they had to do what's called a something test. They would have to jump into a pool fully clothed, jeans, sneakers, jackets, whatever their normal clothes were, and they had to survive floating for 15 minutes in the pool. And it was to prove that they wouldn't die if they flipped over in a boat. It's kind of a confidence builder. But that float test has nothing to do with the art of rowing. Nothing. It has to do with the art of surviving. And in homeschooling, the float test is to make sure that you have curriculum. Make sure that you know that you're teaching your kids things like math and reading and writing and history and science and those kinds of things. That's your float test. But that's not what homeschooling is all about. There are 5 pillars of homeschooling, and if you neglect them, then you're gonna feel like you jumped in the middle of the ocean wearing jeans, sneakers, and then you got a backpack full of books on your back. You're gonna feel like you were prepared, and suddenly you're sinking. So what are these 5 pillars of homeschool? Most people, so my name is Bekki. We homeschooled all 5 of our sons for 25 years, and we currently are homeschooling life coaches. That means we come alongside, help you see, we look at these 5 pillars of homeschool and make sure that they're all solid. Without these 5 pillars, people, they're just wobbly, right? And forgive me, I'm just ironing while I'm chatting with you. So what are the 5 pillars of homeschooling? First, think about yourself for a second. Are you thriving? Are you thriving? If you're not thriving, my bet is that one of these or more of these are wobbly. When I was a young homeschool mom, I was missing all of them. I didn't have all of my pillars in place. But as I was able to get counsel and advice from people that had been there, done that, was able to gird up each of these pillars, and then that's where the fun begins. So check yourself as I'm talking through the pillars and see, are any of these pillars needing to be strengthened, rebuilt, or knocked down and started over, okay? And if so, in the link below in the descriptions, you'll find a free masterclass, which is the perfect way to take a peek at some of the things that we do. And make sure you pay attention because there's a special offer in there. Pillar number 1, the emotional roller coaster. For mom, specifically, and dad, whoever's in charge of homeschooling. If you don't have your emotions under control, when you decide to add homeschooling on top of cooking and cleaning and laundry and errands and all the things, I don't know if you've ever been on a big scary roller coaster. One time we went to Disneyland and we had all 5 of our kids. It was my job to hang out with the Musketeers, the 3 little kids. So I had baby in the little baby carrier, and I had, stretching for a hanger, I had my 2 little toddler guys with me, while my husband took the 2 older boys to go on Space Mountain. Oh, it's a fun roller coaster, right? I was so jealous. I had to go on that Dumbo ride. So anyway, after about an hour, my husband and the older boys come marching back, and I could just see the look on my husband's face. Something wasn't right. It's like, what happened? They waited in line for a long time. They got all the way up to the front, and then he had my oldest 2. So the second one, he looks at his dad at the beginning of the line, and he's like, I think mom needs us. And he's like, no, mom's fine. The mom and the boys are fine. He's like, no, I think mom needs us. I think she needs us now. And they left the line for the roller coaster when they were next to get in. The pillar number one, the emotional roller coaster, is the piece that you really have to understand. Otherwise, you will get to the good stuff and then quit, just like Micah did at the beginning of that line. So, how are you in your emotional roller coaster? A lot of the moms specifically are really, it's a revelation. So that's pillar number one. Pillar number two, this one gets most. How's your routine? Do you have a routine? Do you have a gentle flow in your day? Do your kids know, can you anticipate where all the different pockets are in your day? When's busy time? When's reading time? When's laundry time? All that stuff. So pillar number two, routine. If you don't have your emotional roller coaster and your routines under control, these two together, they can really mess with your life. Pillar number three, and if I'm speaking to you and if you're struggling with any of these things, number one, comment below because you are not alone. Number two, grab a seat in that masterclass, which is also in the descriptions. The third one was the third pillar. This one I personally really struggled with. I was sitting in front of 4 different cases of curriculum. It was now again, I've done everything that you can do in homeschooling. Zero curriculum, boxed curriculum, charter schools, all that stuff. This particular memory, I was sitting at my kitchen table and I was sitting looking at 4 different kits of curriculum and I was in tears. I'm like, I can't. My husband's like, what's wrong? Like, I can't do it. I cannot teach 4 different kids, 4 different grades, and get the cooking and the laundry and all this stuff that I can't do it. And he lovingly helped me push the curriculum aside and he poured me a cup of coffee and he's like, Bekki, it's not about the curriculum. By the time the kids graduate high school, what do we want them to know? And I was like, that's a really good question. It's not just the next lesson. So it's in that moment that pillar number 3 came into full focus for me. And your homeschool pillar number 3, can you guess it? Master homeschool goals. What do you want your kids to know by the time they graduate high school? It's not lesson 17 in their math book. It's not being able to string all these history things together from beginning to end. It's not those things. Master homeschool goals. So I'll share what ours are. They've never changed since that day that I stopped crying. They've been the same. If you go deep into my YouTube channel and you put goals, you'll actually see me with short dark hair talking the same thing. 2012, I think that video is. We have very simple homeschool goals. Number 1, that we share our faith and our family values with our kids in everything that we do. Number 2, that they will know their basic math facts by the time they graduate high school. That the stuff they're gonna need, add, subtract, multiply, divide, percentages, decimals, that kind of stuff, fractions, measurements, basic math facts. Number 3, that we would marinate our kids in excellent literature. Not that they would learn how to read, but that they would learn to love to read. And then our last goal is encompassed in that our kids will become excellent communicators, both in written form and in oral form. See, the pillar number 3 about goals is about what are you aiming for? And I can tell you, my friend, it is never completing curriculum. It shouldn't be, because that's kind of like trying to swim with a backpack full of books on your back. It's just going to weigh you down. But if you know that your goal is to sail across the ocean, right, then you can teach your kids the skills that they need along the way. And then you can use curriculum as one of the ways that you teach the things, right? All 5 of my kids learned their basic math facts, and against my will, I still raised a mathematician. That child, I could not hold him back no matter what I tried. I just wanted him to know the basics. But he was hungry to know more because he was destined to be a scientist and a mathematician. So, checking your pillars, you've got your emotional roller coaster, you've got your routines, you've got your goals. Here's one that people struggle with. Number 4, character training. If you don't focus on heart, attitude, and character as a priority over academics, it's just going to be hard. It's going to be hard for you. It's going to be hard for your kids. Imagine having kids of stellar character and then you add academics on top. They go so much farther, so much faster. It's so much easier on everybody. So that's pillar number 4. The last pillar is one that you don't need to get hung up on. I wonder if you can guess what it is. The last pillar, you don't get hung up on it. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every time. But there needs to be fun. Homeschooling is not supposed to feel like you are pulling your teeth. It's supposed to be an adventure and a journey. If you have your emotions under control, if you have a solid routine, if you have master homeschool goals, if you have character training, insight, and now you add in fun, this is the secret of homeschool success. Everything's held together by the connections that you have with your children. You connect with them first, and then you teach them academics last. So important. So how are your 5 pillars? I've been coaching homeschoolers for well over a decade now, and I have not yet, is this true? No, there's one exception. I have not yet worked with, talked with, coached a homeschool parent that has all 5 pillars in place. There's usually something that needs help. And I want you to know that that's exactly what we do. That's what Homeschooling Olympians life coaching is all about. Finding the areas in your homeschool journey that need help, need refinement, need tweaking, and then we roll up our sleeves together and we fix it. Not because I want a gold star, but because I want you to love your homeschool life the same way that I have. Oh my gosh, it is such an amazing journey. Do your kids still learn to read? Absolutely. Of course they do. By the time they graduate high school. There's no rush. Of course. There's a study out there that says that the average kids, so the age span of when kids typically learn to read, sorry, just trying to get repositioned here, is between the ages of 8 and 12. That's a big span. So there's no rush. You just teach your kids to read. Do your kids need to learn math? Absolutely. But they don't necessarily need to complete 100% of a curriculum in order to understand math. They need their basic math under control. They need to add and subtract and multiply and divide and understand fractions and decimals and percentages, all that stuff, by the time they graduate high school. If, like me, you gave birth or are raising a mathematician, you will not be able to snuff that out. They will have a hunger for numbers that far exceeds anything that you want to do on Tuesday. I can promise you. If you're not a mathematician and you raise a mathematician, woofed, there's an exercise in patience. It's so fun. Do they need to learn how to write? Yes, but do they need to learn to write? Yes, but the point of writing is not to write a paragraph. It's not to write a sentence. It's not to write an essay. 100% of written communication is to share an idea, to inform. You are communicating. So your kids don't necessarily need to write an essay. They need to know how to communicate to an audience for a reason, and they need to know what specialized language they need for that piece of communication. It's a beautiful change in perspective. There are so many forms of written communication. What kinds are they going to need to know? They're going to need to know how to do text messages and emails and how to properly respond on social media. They're going to need to write things like letters of recommendation and cover letters and resumes. They might need to write letters to grandma. They will, at some point, need to learn how to write an essay if they are headed into the academic realm. They will need to write essays. But you can get help with all of those things if you're not strong in those skills. The point with all communication, either written or oral, there's 3 parts to it, and sometimes a 4th. There's 3. Know who it's for. Who is the audience? Know the purpose. Why am I doing this? Why am I writing this? Why am I sharing this orally? And sometimes there's specialized language, and you need to learn the specialized language in order to communicate clearly. The magic 4th one is typically for older communicators. Is there a template? Is there a format that I need to follow in order for it to be accepted? For instance, you can't just fill a page with words and call it a resume. A resume has a format that needs to be followed, and different pieces of information live on different parts of the page. But when your kids are little, you don't need to focus on that. You just focus on ideas and sharing. So how are your pillars? Where are you at? Do you have your emotional roller coaster under control? Yes or no? Do you have your routine and the flow of your day under control? Yes or no? Do you have your master homeschool goals set? I've only bumped into 2 homeschoolers in my entire journey so far that have their master homeschool set before I ask them. So do you have your goals? Are you focused on character before curriculum? Yes, that means some days you will never touch a pencil and your kids will never touch a pencil because the eye rolling needs to be addressed. So how's character training? And number 5, do you mix in fun? At least a little bit. It doesn't have to be all the time. You can add fun, exciting, and adventurous things once a week, once a month, twice a year. It adds up over time if you can just focus on fun. One of my kids' favorite memories, I was busy. I found this scientific experiment that took, the old CD discs that we used to put in our cars to listen to music or that kind of thing. It was a scientific experiment that had the kids transform those discs into hovercrafts. So my kids were older. I had to run a quick errand. I gave them this hovercraft thing, taught them how to do it, and then set them free. I was gone for 20 minutes, came back, and they were so deep in this hovercraft that I made the mental choice. I'm just going to enter this world. We're just going to hovercraft until they don't want to hovercraft anymore. They had so much fun experimenting and refining and showing and doing all the things. We had fun together, music, and we've done all kinds of fun stuff together, built Viking ships and done archaeological digs and created Egyptian shadufs in order to, look how they did irrigation and all this stuff. So do you have a fun factor in your homeschool? And I think most importantly, do you have the right glue? What holds all 5 of the pillars together? You and your connection with your kids. If they don't feel that you see them, if they don't feel like they are worthy, if they don't feel like you're going to be there, whether they do it well or they don't do it well, if you're not connected, don't even try to do the curriculum. Connection is what holds it all together. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Do you feel like you have your 5 pillars under control? Do you feel like you need help with any of the 5 pillars? That's what I do. That's like my favorite thing on the planet to do, besides walking and eating pizza. I really like pizza and ice cream. But then other than that, I really like to help homeschoolers. So 5 pillars. Which ones are you got under control? Which ones are you short on? And I think that's it. There is a free masterclass down for you in the descriptions, and I will see you next time.